Hey guys, it's Lotus and welcome back to another video. Happy December 1st! Wow, I can't believe that it's almost the end of the year, end of 2021. This has been a wild year, guys. A lot has happened. A lot hasn't happened also. But I hope everyone is safe and healthy and happy and doing really well and to have a really happy holidays. And you know, just be safe out there, guys. So, as you can see, I decided to decorate a little bit for December. It's gonna be, it's holiday month, right? Where it's like the season greetings and the Happy New Year and all that stuff. So I wanted to get festive in the mood. So we got some pretty light string lights. We've got a nice cozy blanket, and I also have this really yummy hot cocoa with candy canes in them. So, yep, that's what's up with my new setup. We will be like this for the month of December. And who knows, maybe we'll have some more decorations that'll be added throughout the month. Anyway, let's jump right into the next chapter of Urha, chapter 60. They're on their way to the feathered tribe. Let's see what happens. Okay, let me add some music and jump right into it. Chapter 60. This venerable one discovers a secret. With spells casted on the ferry, the travel was fast, and by the next morning, they had already reached the port of Yangzhou. There were already envoys at the harbor receiving them, stabling them of the horses. The party ate breakfast at the harbor, but since the feathered tribe didn't require sustenance, they sat by the edge of the harbor with their eyes closed, resting their spirits. Dawn had only just broken then, and there weren't many merchants around conducting business, but the deckhands had all risen already, gathering together in 3s and 5s together, chowing down porridge and steamed buns, peeking and stealing curious glances at them from time to time. Bits and pieces of talk from those beefy men in simple labor robes as they chewed their meal fell in Moran's ears.
I recognize their clothes. They're people of the lower cultivation realm.
The lower cultivation realm is so far away, and our sect rarely interacts with them, so how would you know?
Just look at the coat of arms on their vambraces. Isn't it exactly the same as those on the Holy Knight Guardian?
You're talking about those wooden devices that expel evil? Someone took a glance at Xuanmeng's sleeve and exclaimed in awe as he chewed the pickles crunchily. Ayo, it's true! Who was the one that made the Holy Knight Guardians again?
I heard it was Yuheng Elder of Shisheng Peak who made it.
Who's Yuheng Elder? Is he as powerful as our sect leader, Jiang of Gu Yueye?
Hehe, who knows? Who's to say anything about the world of cultivators?
The deckhand spoke with a heavy Sioux dialect, and Moran couldn't quite comprehend, but Chuan-Ning could understand what those people were saying. Learning that the Holy Knight Guardians that he had invented was now successfully being distributed throughout the common world, he couldn't help but feel comforted. Thus, he started plotting mentally, thinking that after they return, he should invent more lighter-geared wooden oxen or horses and do more good. Once breakfast was done, the group took haste, and it didn't take 4 hours before they had reached the foot of Mount Jiuhua. It was still early in the day. The sun of a winter's day had only just reached its peak, and millions of golden light threads came kissing down like silk, sinking the snowy summit in a crystal luminescence, glittering magnificently. Upon the slopes of the summit were hundreds of luscious ancient pines that remained evergreen, standing resolutely in the frost, much like a hermit cultivator with an immortal air, sleeves lowered, eyes half-lidded, deadly silent as they stood on either side of the mountain path. It wasn't for nothing that the mortals called the summit of Mount Jiufeng the Unmortal World. The feathered tribe whistled thrice at the foot of the mountain, and a little golden canary with vibrantly charming feathers came flying out of the white, snowy piedmont and landed lightly before them. The group followed the golden canary's lead, heading west the entire way, and came before a curtain of turbulent and tempestuous waterfall. Will my lord cultivators please step back? The leader of the feathered tribe stood in front, her hand imitating the hand of Buddha as she silently recited a spell. Suddenly, she pursed her scarlet lips and gently blew into the wind. Shockingly, a beam of flames appeared in midair, lunging straight for the waterfall, dividing the water curtain into half. The feathered tribe breezily turned around and smiled. I sincerely invite my lords to step into the peach blossom spring. They followed after the feathered tribe and passed through the water curtain. After crossing the barrier, the scenery suddenly brightened before their eyes. This place was vast without an end in sight, but bustling and lively like the other world. The Peach Blossom Springs was a sheltered world without many connections to the cultivation world, and while it couldn't be compared to the real land of the immortals, never mind spoken of as equals, nonetheless, this land was rich with spiritual chi. Within the springs, the sceneries were as if they came out of poetry and paintings, the colors elegant and delicate, and after having walked for a while, they discovered the changing of seasons was randomized too. With the feathered tribe leading the way, they first passed through the wilderness, and the sound of the coursing rivers roared in their ears, the cries of apes and beasts on either shores. Then they came to the outskirts of the city, and saw vast farmlands of crisscrossing field paths, the wheat swaying along with the breeze. Finally, when they had entered the city fortress, there were immaculate and detailed buildings as far as the eye could see, the eaves tall and grand. The main capital of this Peach Blossom's land was magnificent and beautiful, the city itself grand, its provisions complete, not appearing any less than the lively city centers of the mortal realm. Only, falling blossoms and drifting snowflakes danced together in the air, rare birds and immortal herons took flight together in flocks, and all the feathered tribe folks who passed by were neck-tall and handsome. Their features picturesque and breezy, each looking like unparalleled fairies who emerged from paintings. However, while such an ethereal scene appeared rather new and interesting for Xuemeng and company, but since they had already witnessed the bizarre sight of Jincheng Lake, this was no longer anything that shocked them. They came to a fork in the road, and saw a feathered tribe folk donned in a grand feathered coat embroidered with a golden phoenix and a pure white underlayer standing upright by an ancient tree, so tall it reached the skies. That flame mark on her forehead was much deeper than any of the others, signaling that her powers were far greater than the other feathered tribe. The envoys leading the way brought the group of them before her, then bent one knee to the ground, bowing their respects. Great Immortal Lord, the 4 Xianjun of Shisheng Peak have come! Thank you for your hard work. You may stand down. Yes, my lord. The feathered tribe folk who were beautifully dressed smiled softly, her voice clear and affecting like the crowing of a young phoenix. I am named 18. By the recognition from the immortal elder of my family, I was given the grand title of Great Immortal Lord in the Peach Blossom Springs. We are much thankful that my lords are willing to show us the courtesy of coming to train in this humble abode. Should Xianjun find any inadequate reception in the duration of your stay here, please do forgive us and do not be afraid to let us know. Such beauty and such grace when she spoke, she certainly gave a good impression. Although Xuemeng didn't enjoy men who looked better than him, he was nevertheless at an age where he was beginning to know beauty and affections, so naturally he didn't dismiss ladies so beautiful it was as if they emerged from paintings. Thus he smiled in response. Xianjun is too kind, but this name 18 certainly is odd. May I inquire for Xianjun's family name? 18 replied gently and courteously. I have no family name. 18 is it. 18 is it. Moran laughed heartily. If you're called 18, then there's someone here named 17? That was meant to be a joke, but who knew when 18 heard him, she grinned in spite of herself. Xianjun is wise. 17 is my sister. Moran... ... 18 explained. We feathered tribe are born from the fallen down feathers of the heavenly god Zhu Cue. When our cultivation was still shallow, we often appear in the form of a crested ibis. The one to form an appearance first was the elder immortal of my family, and the rest of the feathered tribe are thus named in order of forming appearances, starting with 1, 2, I am the 18th one, and so I am named 18. ... After Moran heard, he fell speechless. He had originally thought Shui Zhengyong was already horrible at giving names, but he hadn't thought there was one who was even worse here, going by numbers directly. Then 18 said something that made him even more thunderstruck. Come, let's get down to business. This is the first time you have come to this place, and you're not yet familiar with the training rules of the Peach Blossom Springs, 18 said. In the mortal realm for centuries, cultivation has been divided by schools and sects. This place is different. We Feathered Tribe have always been very clear in dividing work. There are those who specialize in defense, those who specialize in attack, and those who specialize in healing. There are 3 divisions in all, and your training will also be conducted thus accordingly. Moran smiled. That's brilliant! 18 nodded towards him. Thank you for thinking so, little Xianjun. The cultivators from Guyue also came by several days ago, and when they heard about this training method, they were all quite displeased. Moran felt incredulous. Defense is defense, attack is attack, and healing is healing. Isn't such a clean division a good thing? What are they unhappy about? You see, 18 replied, there is a young master Duan from Guyue who belonged in defense and needed to reside with the other Xianjun of the same division. But his Shijie belonged to attack and must train and live with the Xianjun of the attack division. While I don't quite understand the affections and relations of mortal kind, but I could still tell that young master wasn't willing to be separated from his sworn sister. Haha, what's up with the— Wait, what did you say? Moran stopped laughing halfway through when it suddenly dawned on him, and his eyes widened. Not only do those who belonged in different divisions have to train separately, they have to live apart too? 18 didn't know why his face suddenly changed and replied in confusion. That's right. Moran's entire face turned blue. ... What kind of joke was this? An hour later, Moran, who had failed in his bargaining with 18, stood dumbfoundedly before a bright and spacious little 4-sided courtyard residence and sank into a long, deep silence. Him, Shuemeng, and Sha Sini belonged in the attack division and were sent to the east side of the Peach Blossom Springs. By east side, it wasn't just any small allotted land, but the place where all the Xianjun who belonged in attack lived. There were already more than 20 some of these courtyard residences that housed 4, and there were also mountains and lakes, streets and markets, built very much similar to those of the mortal realm. It seemed it was because the Feathered Tribe knew they were going to live here for a long time, so it was built thus to help them rid of their homesickness. As for Shimei, since he belonged to healing, he was sent to the south side of the Peach Blossom Springs. It was exceptionally far from where Moran and the others lived, and there was even a barrier set up in between that could only be traversed through by the authority staff. This meant, while Moran and Shimei were both inside the Peach Blossom Springs, other than the daily gathering of all 3 divisions to learn the beginner's cultivation method of the Feathered Tribe, there was basically no other chances for them to see each other. This wasn't even the worst of it either. Moran suddenly looked up and gazed towards the courtyard through his thick curtains of lashes at the Shuemeng who was circling all over the yard, obviously planning on picking the most comfortable room for himself. Moran could feel the veins on his forehead pop in spite of himself. Shuemeng. That's right, effin' hell. From today onwards, he would have to live in the same courtyard as Shuemeng every day. Perhaps for the next long while, he would have to thoroughly experience 2 of the 8 great sufferings of life, the separation of loved ones and the meeting of enemies. He's so melodramatic. The Feathered Tribe had been going from the upper cultivation realm to the lower cultivation realm to find their chosen ones, and by the time they reached Shisheng Peak, they were already at the end of their journey. Thus, those sent from all the other sects had already settled in before them, and Shuemeng soon discovered that one of the rooms of their little 4-sided courtyard was already occupied. Weird, I wonder who settled in here. Shremung mumbled as he glanced at the blanket being hung to dry in the yard. No matter who it is, it shouldn't be anyone who'd make much fuss, Moran said. What do you mean? Let me ask you, Moran said. Which room did you pick? Shremung immediately looked cautious. What are you planning? I've already made my choice. The one sitting in the north facing south is mine. If you're gonna fight me for it, then I'll... He hadn't yet figured out what he was going to do before Moran cut him off laughingly. I don't like rooms that are too big, so I won't fight with you. But let me ask you, if this residence was still empty, he said, and pointed at the little room that someone had already moved into, and continued his query, would you change with him? Shremung looked at that simple little thatched cottage first before glaring at Moran. Do you think I'm dumb? Of course I won't change. Moran laughed. That's why I said that person isn't someone who'd make a fuss. See, when he came, all 4 rooms in this courtyard are empty, but he didn't pick the best one and only chose that short little hovel. If this man isn't a fool, then he's a humble gentleman. ... This analysis certainly wasn't wrong, but Shremung felt like his face was ripped open by the hidden knife in Moran's smile. The other man was a gentleman, leaving the best room to sleep in a dilapidated hut. Then wasn't he a stinking vulgar common man? A petty cheapskate? But Moran didn't call Shremung out by name, so young Master Shui couldn't yell back, nor could he endure it. So in the moment his entire face flushed red. Either way, I'm used to living well, Shremung choked in resentment and rebuked with a dark face. I can't stand run-down places in this case, so whoever wants to be a gentleman can go right ahead. I don't care. Having made his statement, he turned and left. Thus, the 4 different styled rooms of the courtyard residence were all taken by different masters. Shremung chose the exquisite residence in the north, the walls pale and the shingles black, the threshold lined with gold, the most luxurious room. Moran picked the stone cottage on the west, a peach tree planted by the entrance, the flowers at the height of their blossoming. As for Chuaning, he asked for the bamboo building on the east side, and when the sun sank at dusk on the west, the tender, gentle bamboos were like illuminated crisp, bright jades. And on the south side, that humble, simple thatched cottage resided that gentleman they had yet to meet. Chuaning's cold wasn't yet healed, and his head was spinning crazily, so he had gone to rest quite early. Shremung stayed with him for a bit, but since his little Shudi didn't snuggle or whine, nor did he care to listen to stories, wrapping himself up like a little sticky rice ball and only cared to sleep in muffled peace, Shremung sat on the edge of his bed for a little while before he found himself unneeded and dusted himself off and left. In the yard, Moran had pulled the chair out and was just putting his legs up, his arms pillowing behind his head as he watched the golden sun sink in the west and the blazing rays peel away in leisure. Seeing Shremung come out, he asked, Shashudi is... Shashudi... Oh wow, I got confused. I'm like, Shashuni. Shashudi is asleep now? Yeah, he's asleep? Has his fever gone down? If you care about him, why don't you go inside and see for yourself? Moran laughed heartily. That little guy probably isn't deep asleep yet. My clumsiness might rouse him. Shremung gave him a look. Well, at least you're aware of yourself. And here I thought you're just like the cats and dogs Mom raised, and only knew how to chill out in the yard and be lazy. Haha, and how do you know I'm being lazy? Moran twiddled with a peach blossom between his fingers and looked up with a smile. The time I spent here sitting in the yard was enough to discover a shocking major secret. Shremung obviously didn't want to ask, but was still curious nonetheless, and after bearing it for a good while, with his face still stiff, he worked out an expression of indifference before he muttered, What major secret? Moran waved at him and squinted his eyes. Bring your ear closer and I'll tell you in secret. Incredibly unwilling, Shremung lowered his gracious ear over. Moran pressed close and chuckled quietly. Hehe, got you, dumb mung. Shremung's eyes bulged in round circles and immediately exploded in outrage, yanking over Moran's collar. You lied to me? How juvenile are you? Moran laughed. How have I lied? I did discover a secret, but I also didn't want to tell you, that's all. Xuemeng's dark brows hardened. If I continue to believe you, then I'm truly a fool. The two bickered like a bird pecking a dog and a dog biting a bird, and Moran was just about to teasingly say something else to provoke the other to get even angrier when suddenly a foreign voice laced with confusion from behind went, before speaking. Are the two of you new training peers? This man's voice was clear and crisp, more supple and bright than your average youth. Moran and Xuemeng both turned their heads back and saw in the crimson blood red of the remnant sun a man dressed in a tight suit was standing there against the wind. The man was born with deep features, his brows inky black, a black jaded hair crown fastened atop his head, and his honey-colored face was both handsome and spirited. While his body wasn't tall or buff, his figure was exceedingly commanding, more esteemed than those distinguished and with class. Especially those pair of long legs. With the bindings of a tight black suit, they appeared even more shapely and powerful, straight and gallant. Moran's expression instantly changed, and it felt like the blood and sins of a separate world flashed before his eyes. It was as if he saw a silhouette kneeling in the tempest of blood, the collarbones shot through with a steel chain, flesh on half the face ripped away but would rather die than surrender, refusing to yield. Oh, so Moran recognizes this person from his past. His heart trembled like a crystal dewdrop that dripped from a leaf, and Moran actually couldn't describe what it was he was feeling. If there was anyone he had respected and admired in his previous life, then the one before his eyes now was definitely one of them. So, the honorable gentleman who was to live with them was actually him, huh? Who is he? Who is this guy that Moran really respected in his first life? Okay, author's notes. First day of school, Mo Wei-yu came to Mount Juhua Birdfolk University and is living in a 4-person dorm room. Moran: Hi everybody, I'm Mo Wei-yu from Hunan Xintang. I'm studying philosophy. Please take care of me. Chuaning: I came from Linnan. That pile of laundry on the balcony is mine. I'll throw them all into the washing machine and wash them later at night, but I don't know how to stuff my duvet covers. If anyone could help me with that, thanks. Moran, ... Xuemeng: Xue Ziming, Sichuan, do not provoke me. The entire lower cultivation world's economic backbone is under my dad's hands. If any of you dare to bully me, my dad can ruin the stocks of your parents' hold. Moran, ... Meanwhile, the dorm room's door opened. The dorm leader came back from washing mosquito nets in the laundry room. Then, from the side character roster, is he Mei Han Shui or is he Ye Wangxi? This is an easy question. Oh, is it? An easy question. Well, we're definitely going to find out who he is in chapter 61 because we're going to continue. But just to recap chapter 60, Moran, Xuemeng, Shasini, and Shimei all arrive at the Feather Tribe, and they're in awe at how magical it looks, and they find out that the disciples are divided based on their specialty. And so Moran, Xuemeng, and Shasini are sent to the attack division, but Shimei, who was a healer, is sent to the healing division. So now Moran can't hang out with Shimei, and he's really depressed about that. And then they all kind of choose their own room. Each of their own rooms is a different vibe. Xuemeng has the most opulent room, Moran has a nice stone one with a cherry blossom tree, and Shasini has a bamboo house, and then their fourth mysterious roommate chose the most modest room, a thatched roof home. Now, as Moran and Xuemeng are bickering, their roommate makes an appearance. Who is he? How does Moran know him? He is someone that Moran really respects and really regretted having died in his past life. So, let's see who this person is. Let's continue on to chapter 61. Okay. Chapter 61. This venerable one is really great. The two brothers stopped bickering and rose to their feet at the same time. The person in front of them had an extremely distinguished air about him. Xuemeng stared for a moment before he finally reacted, nodding. That's right. Who are you? Xuemeng had been headstrong since birth, and even though Madame Wang taught him etiquette over and over again, he never took it to heart. So he never asked for people's proper courtesy names, didn't bother with honorifics, and wouldn't give out his own name either. He was, in essence, downright rude. Yeah, that's Meng Meng for you. But Moran knew that this person was too dignified to make a scene at such actions. After all, this was... I am a disciple of the Rufeng sect, Ye Wangxi. As expected, the young man was calm and composed and didn't get angry. Below his dark black eyebrows were a pair of eyes that shone like scattered starlight. Exceptionally bright and piercing. May I inquire as to your name? Ye Wangxi? Xue Meng frowned, muttering. Never heard of him. Must not have much of a reputation. Oof! Meng Meng, how can you be so rude right in front of him? You're saying it right to his face. His mutters weren't loud, but the only way the other wouldn't be able to hear him would be if he was hard of hearing. Thus, Moran discreetly tugged on Xue Meng's sleeve to get him to hold back a little, then masked the emotions on his own face and smiled lightly. I'm Moran, a disciple from Shishang Peak, and the one beside me is my ill-mannered little brother, Xue Meng. Xue Meng pulled away from him, throwing him an angry glare. Don't touch me! Who's your little brother? Oh, Xue Meng, you... Moran sighed. He turned to Ye Wangxi, eyes curving up into crescents, and smiled. My younger brother is a bit stubborn. Please don't mind him, Ye Xiang. It wasn't that he suddenly decided to change his entire attitude and start being courteous about Xue Meng. Rather, it was because Ye Wangxi was an outstanding genius among his peers. Although this Ye Wangxi hadn't made a name for himself yet, in his previous life, Ye Wangxi was second only to Chuaning in the entire cultivation world. Wow, so this guy is really held in high esteem. He's really powerful. Heaven knows how much Moran had suffered at Ye Wangxi's hands in his previous life. After being reborn into this life, seeing as the other was still sharp as a knife's edge, an upright hero, pure and noble, even if he couldn't get into his good graces, at the very least, Moran didn't want to be his enemy again. Just Chuaning alone was enough to beat him black and blue. How would he even be able to live in peace if Ye Wangxi was added to the mix? Ye Wangxi was a man of few words, so after a few polite words, he'd returned to his own room. As soon as he left, Moran's expression returned to his annoying as hell, shit-eating grin. What do you think? What do I think about what? That person, Moran replied. Like him? Think he's good-looking? Huh? Xue Meng looked at him like he was out of his mind and scoffed. Weirdo? Moran laughed. The four of us are living in the same courtyard. We'll run into each other around every corner. You should be glad that he's the one we're living with. Xue Meng was puzzled. The way you talk, it sounds like you already know him. Or you know him already. Of course, Moran couldn't tell him the truth, so he joked without a hint of seriousness. Nope, I don't know him, but I only judge people by their faces. He's good-looking, so I like him a whole lot. Xue Meng scorned. Disgusting. Moran laughed, waving his hand as he turned around, flipping an offensive hand gesture at Xue Meng behind his back. He then lazily walked back to his own little stone house, barring the door with a clunk, and shutting all of Xue Meng's cursing and swearing outside. The morning of the next day, Moran got up early. The feathered cultivators delayed cultivation practice for 3 days so they could get accustomed to life at Peach Blossom Springs. After Moran freshened himself up, he saw that Ye Wangxi left on his own. The other two hadn't woken up yet either, so he went for a stroll through the streets. Amidst the thin layer of morning fog, quite a few cultivators glided by with light steps, rushing to their own individual cultivation grounds. Moran passed by a breakfast stall and saw a fresh pot of steam-fried buns. He thought of his little Shidi, who was still sick, and walked over to say, I'll take 8 fried buns and 1 bowl of sweet congee to go, Mrs. Shopkeep. The feathered stall owner didn't even lift her head up and replied, Give me 6 feathers. Moran stared blankly. 6 what? 6 feathers. So do I need to find a chicken right now and pluck a couple of feathers? The feathered shopkeeper raised her eyes to give him a look. No feathers and you still want food? Go, get lost. Moran was both irked and humored, but just as he was about to ask again, a familiar voice suddenly came from behind him. A hand wrapped in bandages reached out, 6 glimmering, resplendent golden feathers pinched between his fingers. Mrs. Shopkeep, some porridge please, it's on me. The feathered shopkeep took the feathers, not wanting to waste any more time on them, and turned to pack up the breakfast to go. Moran turned his head and saw that Ye Wangshi was standing by his side, standing tall and handsome, his presence elegant. Oh, thank you very much! Moran grabbed the still steaming piping hot buns and the sweet congee, and walked away with Ye Wangshi. If I hadn't run into you today, I'm afraid we might have gone hungry. No worries, Ye Wangshi said. Miss 18 doesn't have a good memory, and always forgets to give newcomers some feathers. I also ran into you by chance. It's not much skin off my back, so don't worry about it. Moran asked him, Do you need these feathers to do all business in Peach Blossom Springs? That's right. Where do the feathers come from? Ye Wangshi replied, They are plucked. Plucked? Moran felt slightly dumbfounded. These feathers really were plucked straight off the body of a bird? Then wouldn't the birds around here all end up completely bald? Seeing his shocked face, Ye Wangshi glanced at him with amusement. What are you thinking about? In Peach Blossom Springs, there's a place called the Ancestral Abyss. Legend has it that was where the Zhu Chui immortal ascended. The bottom of the abyss is filled with roaring flames. It's hot beyond measure and hard to endure. Not a single inch of grass can grow there, and no beast can survive either. Moran listened to his description and immediately thought of the blood-red sky that he'd seen in the distance when he passed through the outskirts of the city yesterday. Is the abyss near the northern part of the city? You are correct. What does that have to do with the feathers? Ye Wangshi replied, It's like this. Although no other creatures can live around the ancestral abyss, there is a flock of angry owls that lives inside. They make their nests with the fire, hide during the day, and come out at night. Their feathers can help people from the feathered cultivators tribe refine their cultivation. So that's how it is, Moran grinned. No wonder they want to trade goods for feathers then. But you should be mindful, because when they come out at night, their feathers will turn into normal ones, the same as those from regular owls. Even if you catch them then, they won't be useful at all. Only at daybreak every day, when the sun rises in the east, will the flock of owls return to the ancestral abyss in the hundreds and thousands. The moment right before they enter their abyss, their feathers will turn gold again, and only then is it useful to pluck them. Haha, wouldn't that be the same as practicing footwork and flying skills? If your skills are subpar, then you'd fall in and become barbecue. If you don't go and harvest feathers, then you'll probably starve to death. Moran couldn't help but click his tongue. That's pretty rough. Ye Wangshi asked, Could it be that you're not good at light footwork? Moran chuckled. Just so-so. That won't do, Ye Wangshi replied. The owl's movements are swift and violent, no slower than a falcon or hawk. If you don't practice diligently, then you'll go hungry after a couple of days. So that's how it is. When he saw that Moran was still spacing out, Ye Wangshi sighed and spoke again. I've acquired quite a few feathers, and I'm not lacking for the time being. If the three of you need some, just ask me for now. Aw, he's so nice and generous. Moran waved his hand again, smiling. How could we do that? Let's just count this as me borrowing these 6 feathers from you. I'm going to go back and eat some food first, and if I can harvest some feathers tomorrow, I'll pay you back. Thanks a lot! Moran bade farewell to Ye Wangshi, carrying the congee and food back to the courtyard. Shuemeng's room was empty. He'd probably woken up and gotten bored, and went out for a stroll. Moran then went to Chuaning's bamboo house. Chuaning hadn't woken up yet. Moran set the congee and steam-fried buns on the table and went to his bedside. He lowered his head to take a look. All of a sudden, a familiar feeling washed over him. This little Shidi's appearance while sleeping. Why did it seem like a certain someone? But he couldn't think of exactly who his Shidi's appearance resembled. He only had a fuzzy impression of someone else who was just like this. Someone who always curled himself up into a ball while laying on his bed, his hands under his cheeks. But who was it exactly? While he was busy getting lost in his thoughts, Chuaning woke up. Ooh. He rolled over. Chuaning saw the person beside his bed and suddenly opened his eyes wide. Moran? How many times have I told you? You should call me Shishang. Moran ruffled his hair a bit, and then took his temperature by feeling his forehead. It seems like your fever's broken. Come on, get up and eat some food. Eat food? The child on the bed repeated blankly, his messy hair still making his face look cuter. Look at how much Shishang cares about you. I got up so early to go buy breakfast. You should eat it while it's still hot. Chuaning put on his spotlessly white inner robes and got off the bed, walking towards the dining table. On top of the dining table, there was a single fresh lotus leaf. The steamed fried buns inside had thin skins and crispy bottoms, with jade green pieces of chopped green onion and black sesame scattered over top. On the other side, there was a small bowl of longan and osmanthus congee. It was soft and sticky, but thick and rich at the same time, still piping hot, with clouds of steam rising from it. The usually strong and steadfast Yu Heng elder was suddenly unsure of himself. For me? Ah? Did you buy all of this? For me? Moran was stunned for a moment. That's right! He watched Chuaning, who looked all hesitant and unsure. He thought about it and smiled. Hurry up and eat up, otherwise it'll go cold. Although Chuaning had been in Shishong Peak for so many years, and everyone respected him, almost no one would eat food with him because of his cold and stiff personality. They were even less likely to bring him a portion of breakfast from the canteen. Sometimes he'd watch the disciples take care of each other and was unwilling to admit it, but he couldn't help being slightly jealous of them in his heart. And so, faced with this bowl of porridge and a couple of buns, he couldn't bring himself to actually eat them. A long while passed in silence. Moran saw him sitting on the small stool, staring at the food in front of him and not moving his chopsticks, and thought the food might not be to his taste. What's wrong? Moran asked. Is it too greasy for you? ... Chuaning looked back at him and shook his head. He picked up his spoon, scooping up a spoonful of congee. He blew on it and took a careful sip. If he was still the beautiful, cold, and distant Chu Zhongshi from before, then he would seem elegant and refined eating congee in such a manner, as though he was practicing restraint. But in the body of a child, he just looked slightly awkward and pitiful. Moran misinterpreted his hesitation and said to him, Do you not like longans? You could pick them out and leave them by the side then. It's no biggie. No. The little shitty's face wasn't too expressive, but when he looked towards Moran again, his crow-black eyes were soft. I like it. Oh, haha, that's good then. I thought that you didn't like it. Chuaning's thick curtain of lashes swept downwards, and he repeated his words quietly. I like it. No one's ever taken care of me like this before. As he spoke, he lifted his eyes to glance at Moran. He spoke again earnestly. Thank you very much, Shishang. Moran didn't expect that he'd say something like that, and couldn't help feeling stunned. He wasn't a naturally kind person, and didn't particularly like kids. He only treated Sha Sini well because his skills were unusually good at a young age, and he seemed like a junior worth making friends with. Moran was only thinking about things practically, but seeing how Chuaning was treating this matter sincerely, he couldn't help but blush with shame. However, after hearing what his shidi had said, he thought it was a little strange. Moran waved his hand to tell Chuaning that he didn't need to thank him, and asked, Has nobody ever brought you breakfast before? Chuaning nodded expressionlessly. Do Xuanji elders' disciples not know to look after one another or something? Chuaning replied, I don't hang out with them much. What about before you came to the sect, when you lived at your old house, your mom and dad? After saying the first half of his sentence, Moran stopped. Seeing how his little shidi was so quick-witted and pure as snow, what sort of parents would have the heart to leave such a kid on top of a mountain to cultivate, and never come back and come visit him ever again? It seemed like he had suffered the same experiences as Shimei and himself. As expected, Chuaning spoke calmly. My parents abandoned me, and I didn't have any other relatives, so there was nobody to look after me. Moran was silent for a long while before letting out a big sigh. He thought, Originally, I just wanted to be friends with this kid. 1, because his cultivation level was quite high, and 2, because he was steady and mature, unlike the typical rowdy kid. Who would have thought that he came from the same background as me? Looking at the little shidi in front of him, Moran couldn't help thinking of his own childhood and remembering those years filled with bitterness and hardships. He felt a surge of emotion rush through his chest that filled him with sympathy and a sense of intimacy. Suddenly, he spoke. "There was nobody to take care of you before, but there will be from now on. Since you've already called me your Shishang, I'll take care of you properly from here on out." It seemed like Chuaning didn't expect him to say this and was a little surprised. After a while, his features melted slowly into a tiny smile, and he spoke. "You'll take care of me?" "Oh, baby! Yes, Moran is gonna pamper you so much, Shasini." If you stick with me from now on, I'll teach you meditation and sword techniques." Chuaning's grin widened. "You'll teach me meditation and sword techniques?" Moran misinterpreted his expression and scratched his head, saying, "Don't make fun of me. I know that your cultivation level is already pretty good, but you're still young after all, and you have lots to learn. There's a lot of disciples under Xuanji Elder, and he probably won't be able to teach you individually. What's wrong with learning a bit from me? At the very least, I'm still a person with a spiritual weapon." Chuaning was silent for a moment and finally spoke. "I wasn't making fun of you. I think you're great." Chuaning wouldn't... Oh, that's so cute! Oh my gosh, okay. Chuaning would have never been able to say something like this before. However, ever since his body had gotten smaller, it seemed as though his personality had gotten gentler and softer too. It was as if he was hiding under a cloak of darkness and could finally take off his rock-hard mask. As for Moran, although he'd lived through 2 lifetimes, this was the first time someone had praised him like that and told him, "You're great." Even though the one who praised him was just a little kid, he was still at a loss at what to do, overwhelmed by the pleasant surprise. Moran could do nothing but sputter for a while. His skin, which had always been as thick as city walls, actually flushed red. The great Ta Xianjun is a flustered mess from being praised. Moran praise kink confirmed. Also, he's probably looking at Shasini like, "You're my kid now, I'm adopting you. Don't worry. Big brother Moran Gugu will take care of everything that you need. No one will ever hurt you ever again." It's kind of like that meme where it's like the lady's holding the cat and saying, I've only had him for 2 days, but if anything happens to him, I'll kill everyone in this room and then myself." That's literally Moran here. Just imagine him holding a small white kitten, Shasini, saying, "Nobody better hurt this kid. He's under my protection." Oh, I can't wait to see more interactions between Shasini and Moran. He repeated what was said to him, stuttering. I'm great. You really think I'm great?" Suddenly, Moran vaguely recalled that, when he was young, he had wanted to be a good person. But that small, gentle wish of his from back then, much like all of his other little wishes, "When I grow up, I want to ask Li Zizi from the makeup store to marry me. When I have money, I want to eat pancake fritters every day. If I could have just 2 pieces of barbecued meat for every meal, I wouldn't trade it even for immortality." All of it, in the end, became nothing more than memories blown away by the wind and scattered in the snow. End of chapter 61. Oh, poor Moran. He was just having a good time hanging out with Shasini, and then he got the feels while flashbacking to his pitiful past self before he got picked up and brought to Shishang Peak. Okay, so to recap chapter 61, Moran goes for a stroll and wants to buy some breakfast for Shasini because he's still sick, which is such a good thing. What a good big brother, right? What a good Shishang. And then he finds out that the vendors don't take regular money, they actually take golden feathers. Which, I don't remember, I think a few chapters ago during the New Year's Eve celebration, did Chuaning give all of his disciples golden feathers? I think he did, and I'm not sure. They may be the same type of feathers, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm misremembering. But yeah, and then he happened to bump into Ye Wangxi, their 4th roommate, and Ye Wangxi was kind enough to pay the tab for him. And Moran finds out that the currency used by these feathered tribe cultivators are golden feathers, which you can only get from owls that live in a fire waterfall. And you can only get it at a certain time of day during daybreak, right before they return home to the waterfall. So if you're not careful, you can get attacked by them and then fall into the fire and burn to death. Yes, so you really have to work and earn your keep, you know? You're gonna starve if you're not careful. But yeah, he brings back the food to Chua Ning, and Chua Ning is so cute, all curled up and sleepy baby. And he wakes up and he sees Moran, and he's so touched that Moran brought him breakfast, because when he, as Yu Hong Elder, he had never been given kindness or shown kindness in that way, like eating with others and, you know, receiving food from others. And so he's all touched, and he's like so cute, and he's like, "Thank you, Moran Gugu. Thank you, Shishong. Shishong, you're so cool. You're so outstanding. You're so great." And Moran's like, arrow to the heart. How can my Shudi be so cute? So yeah, I am loving Shasini and Moran's interactions, and I can't wait to see more. So that's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed the read-along, and I will see you guys next time. Bye-bye!